Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Unlocking Data series, where we uncover everything you need to know about personal data sovereignty in the Web3 ecosystem, including topics around data ownership in the metaverse. In the coming episodes of the series, we shall be covering interesting topics on how you can trade your data and truly own your personal data. Isn't that fascinating? Well, let's dive deep into this episode and introduce our guest today. Well, we have Mark Paul, founder of ITHEUM, who we usually have on our this series, Unlocking Data series. And today we have a new guest, Shivam as well, who is the founder of Rephrase.ai. And I would love for you guys to give your introductions.
Hi everybody, and my name is Mark, and I'm the founder of ITHEUM. I think you all have seen me a few times on this. Today I'm super excited to have Shivam on the show, and we're going to have this really fascinating discussion around synthetically generated videos, AI videos. So Shivam, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks, Anita. I am Shivam. I am a co-founder at Rephrase.ai. Here I lead engineering and product. I worked as an Android developer in college for a long time. Then I graduated in 2015 and moved to Facebook London for a while. And then I worked in Messenger video calling and then in Facebook Spaces in California for a bit. And then I worked at Facebook AI Research for a very short time and then started Rephrase.ai back in India. It's a very quick intro.
It is, but it's good. It gives us a good background about yourself.
Shivam, my first question would be can you tell me the high-level explanation of synthetically generated videos and how is it used for video creation? What is the importance?
At a very basic level, what it means is instead of having to do a video shoot in a studio, you can synthetically generate a video using just software. So what we essentially do is we create what is called talking head videos by just inputting text to our engines. So the way it works is we take a 15-minute video of someone speaking in front of a camera. Our engine sort of learns how they speak, what their facial structure is like, and then given any new text or audio, our engine basically generate a video of that person talking again. You can just imagine that the way video shoot process works today is a very long and difficult process. It goes via service industry in a way. If you want to do a video shoot, if you want like a 15-minute video, you would have to go to a studio, set up lighting, set up a camera, get a person to film it. Then the actor who is recording the video has basically they have to learn the script, and then they sort of do a delivery. And then even after shoots, they have to do multiple retakes. And after all of that, they have to do like a lot of post-production work, like green screen removal and changing the background and whatnot. So what we do with these synthetic videos is we basically convert that entire process to just software where you can just input the script that you want this person to speak, and you click a button and you get the video. So it sort of converts a service, like sort of a model to get the videos to a product.
So Shivam, I want to kind of drill into a few things you said there. Okay, so very cool. Since now I have an idea of synthetically generated videos. This is a new space for me, so please, I might ask some very fundamental, elementary questions, but I'm sure our viewers will have similar questions. Okay, so in that experience that you mentioned, right, like how you begin this, you said you record somebody, and then your engine studies their facial movements, and then you're able to input any text, and it can generate the synthetically generated video based on the initial sort of learning phase, if I'm not mistaken. Is that at a very high level, like the steps, like you're kind of feeding in the real data through the video, then your engine is learning, and then you're training it, and then you have your final model that's executing the final video at a very high level? Is that kind of how it works?
Correct. That's pretty much how it works. What we do is, if let's say I have a 15-minute video of a person talking like this, the kind of
Yeah.
video that we're recording,
Yeah.
uh, our engine would sort of break it down into video and audio. In video, what we do is, like, if I know the initial, like, a basic base face, uh, so we convert every frame into a 3D model.
Okay.
uh, and from that, I am sort of our engine like try to predict a basic face shape, and then for every frame it sort of tries to understand the deviation from the base face. Let's say if I'm smiling, then how is my face sort of changing when I'm smiling, right?
Okay.
Every frame. uh,
Okay.
so that way it basically learns like a deviation of sorts, and then
Yeah.
for audio we do something similar. We create a spectrogram there, and
Yeah.
then our engine learns a correspondence between the two, and then given any new audio, it basically predicts from the spectrogram, it predicts these deviations, and then it uses mesh reconstruction to sort of create 3D back to 2D.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So I'd like to kind of deep dive into the data side of this, right? So imagine that we were creating the synthetic model of me. So you were going to record me, and then you were going to allow somebody to come and type some text, and it will be like me talking. Is there a process where you're using something like transfer learning or whatever? What is the base model that you would use to kind of put my data on top and then grow it? Is there such a concept in this industry?
Yeah, definitely. So what we do is we have an engine learn which has learned from like thousands of videos and thousands of faces, and it basically understands how basic sort of for any particular sound, how basic human faces move, uh, and then it specializes for your face when we get a like when we get data specific to you. So we do apply transfer learning on like top of a very pre-trained model which has learned from thousands of faces.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. It's starting to make sense now. So so now going back to the step of, you said, okay, it's been pre-trained with a lot of data. Like, did you guys do this, or is this some model that was freely available? What I'm trying to get at is this sort of data set freely available in the market, or is it a specialized data set that you have to buy from people? If somebody new is coming into this industry, like, is this something they can buy, or they have to build themselves? I'm very curious to know about the data set.
Right. That's an interesting question. So there are actually different parts to it. One part is where we sort of scrape on YouTube for different data for the license-free videos, where we basically try to get the videos that are a good fit for our database. So the major problem that we get in videos is if our model is trying to learn something very specific. In videos, you would see very different lighting, frame by frame. Like, to make the videos interesting, people added a lot of jump cuts, and they like add lighting. So basically, for a video to be engaging, you need a lot of variations. On the other hand, our engine needs the video to be like sort of in a very set way, because it's training data. Like, it needs to be a very specific format. So that is, like, we do a lot of cleaning and sort of pulling of this data. Generally, a lot of this work is done by some researchers, where they would sort of like share a list of videos that they use for their trainings. So that sometimes helps. But generally, on top of this, what we usually have to do is we have to specify our own conditions for the video shoot, and then we have like, we work with a video production house where we like get the video shoots and even the audio recordings in very specific conditions that we need, so that we can like run different experiments that we want. So basically, for a base pre-trained model, you can get some of the data from the internet, but to do very specific experiments. So if I want, for example, a 30-degree angle for all the videos, then we have to get that shoot very specifically done in the specific conditions that we need.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so that was actually my next question was, how much of effort do you guys have to spend to build this data pipeline, to curate the raw input, to clean it up, to bring it into a format that is very specific to you. Now, I mean, you did mention that you have transfer learning, and then you're plugging in specific data sets. But is part of your generation process quite like heavy duty data engineering, trying to get the data to a format that you want?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of work actually goes in that. It starts with starting from data validation, which if you don't do, you basically realize later in the process is that the input data is not correct, so model cannot learn. So starting from data validation to converting the data in the format that our engine can actually use it, our neural network can actually use it. It's a long process. Like I mentioned, basically for audio we convert into spectrograms, and for video we sort of like for every single frame we try to predict a low dimension representation of the video frame. So that entire process actually is pretty long, and there are a lot of variations that we keep doing in that itself. uh, and since uh, it's a generative network, it gets even more tricky than say some recognition models or classification models, uh, which generally have like a very specific or objective answers to them. In generative model, so if I am speaking something, then I could be saying it in a lot of different ways, but all of them would be correct. For that reason, it gets even tricky to sort of understand that part.
Okay, that's very cool. Okay, so now I have an idea of how, I guess, from a very high level, the technology stack comes together. So I'd like to kind of drill down into a couple of use cases. So the primary use case, and you correct me if I'm wrong, for Rephrase is in the advertising industry, or it is more retail focused, where you control all the parameters. Like basically, if you're going to train a specific actor to say something, then you can bring them in, control how we record them. Firstly, is that sort of the first use case for Rephrase?
Yeah, so that's what we primarily use it for today, where we record like a 15-minute video of like generally a celebrity or someone from the leadership, and we clone their faces and the voices. Basically, our engine learns how they speak and how they look when they speak, and then we sort of create videos on top of that. Yeah.
Okay, so is there? Are you guys thinking of like more wider consumer use cases? I'm thinking more so an everyday people participating in this somehow. I don't know. I can't think of a specific use case, but maybe something like I'm just an average person and I want to use this model. I want to record some videos like this interview. Maybe I can get it to run by itself. Are you guys thinking that far ahead? Like maybe at one point this will be more broader available?
Yeah, definitely. That is a very interesting question, and I think the possibilities with generative media are actually endless. What we are essentially developing is obviously, like, technology wise, it does not differentiate between whether it's like how popular the person is. So technology wise, like, it can clone pretty much anyone. Where we are basically developing this technology where you'd be like able to sort of put up a video link and then the engine would sort of train itself. There are a lot of interesting use cases for this. This is essentially in longer term horizon a very horizontal product, where just you're generating videos for, you can do it for pretty much anything. There are a lot of companies that are using it for corporate learning or for like chatbots, right? Having one-to-one interaction with a chatbot. On top of that, if you think of more B2, like more customer-facing use cases, that gets tricky. Like you mentioned, like it's very difficult to think of some good use cases where it adds a lot of value. One of them that I generally think of is, let's say, if you are sending a text to someone, and if this technology gets to a place where all the emotions are expressed properly and it would just speak as if it were you, with conveying all the emotions as it is, then you could just convert that text to a video. So if you sent me a text, I would still consume it as a video. Like you would see all the new generation, or like all the teenagers basically using a lot of video chatting or sending video recordings and audio recordings instead of text.
Yeah.
So everybody, like all of them, sort of like to consume this in video or audio format. But then there are still a lot of them who are not okay sending it. In that case, if they send it in a text format, and the receiver can still sort of get a proper emotive video, then that would be like a great use case.
Yeah, I really like that use case. So one area that we have been looking at a lot is the metaverse, right? From a perspective of how do you take personal data into the metaverse? So our entire technology stack has tools that can tokenize personal data, move it into the metaverse, and then eventually move it back. So we're creating like this bridge for data between real world and metaverse. And the use case that keeps coming to my mind is what you just mentioned. How, if I enter the metaverse, what I am within the metaverse is a 3D character, right? But my speech could be from the real world. So if there's some way we could get the speech in, and the character, is actually talking with the same emotions that I had. So this is kind of like what you had mentioned earlier. Like when you are training the video model, you are actually converting it into a 3D model first. So that's super interesting when you mentioned that. Okay, so now let's imagine a world like you just mentioned with the SMS and what I mentioned, where this technology, synthetic generation, is used in the metaverse. One issue I'm sure that keeps coming up is privacy, right? Because if I am going to record myself and I know that my recording is being used to train this model to be able to deliver content as though it were me, I might be concerned about privacy. Do you have this issue with the celebrities you guys are getting on board? Do they also get very concerned about this kind of concepts?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think with this generative technology, privacy is always a very important question. So especially with the kind of faces where we are recording celebrities, where if something where they are where it's very important to sort of protect their data and to protect their videos. The way we think about this is the general motivation to sort of the general misuse of this kind of technology is if for a major celebrity you get them to say something which they would not otherwise say, or which they did not intend to say. The way I like think of this as a mental model is how you would post something on social media account. So in a way, if you are posting on Twitter on a celebrity's behalf, that is the equivalent of how I think like you're creating a video of them speaking. So basically what we do is essentially we come at an access level where someone else other than that celebrity cannot create a video or without their permission. So if, for example, you put up a script and you want a big celebrity to say it, we would get their approval first, and without their approval the video doesn't go. The second part that we work on sort of there is, can you access the video with certain permission? Like one is the video creation, and the second aspect of is video downloading or accessing the video. So that can be protected in certain cases where you have control of the video distribution. And the third point there, I think, generally becomes, if let's say the video is broadcasted in some way, can you go back and check if the video was created by a generative media company or not? So what we do generally in all the videos that we send out, we add our logo there to sort of convey that it's basically a generated video. And the other thing that we do to protect the data privacy, other than say getting the script approved every time from the celebrities, is especially in a lot of cases where we only personalize the video. Say if I am from a celebrity, if I want to send out a very important message in an awareness campaign, right? So the message would come like, hey Mark, we are running this new awareness campaign. which could be about something. So the mark part there is personalized, and then we get those scripts pre-approved from the talent and from their teams and from the brands that we generally work with.
Yeah, I saw the was it the Shah Rukh Khan example? That was really cool, man. So basically, you are able. It's not the whole thing that's generated. It's only like a specific portion. So that way, you're minimizing, I guess, the risk of okay.
Correct. So if we do generate an entire video, then it generally goes to like the entire process, the approval process again from the talent.
Yeah. So I've got some ideas on how blockchain might help you, right? So I thought I'll bring it up now. So as you were talking, like a couple of things there is the privacy and making sure that my content is not used other than what it was intended to use. So, and second is how do you mentioned how the end consumer can verify that this generative piece was created by somebody approved or verified to do so.
Correct.
So blockchain is the perfect use case for this, man, because on the latter part, that's called veracity. So it's to make sure the data is not tampered, right? So you could literally, upon creating, so as a studio, you guys are creating it. I guess the celebrity has given you permission to do it, so they have dedicated permission. So you can sign that, the output of your creation, and you can store it on the blockchain. And then whoever's on consuming it, we can do a verification on chain. And because blockchains are immutable, the celebrity could be guaranteed to know that their data wasn't tampered with. And you can almost do like a tick mark on your video, the final product, that it's verified. So actually, ITHEUM has this tech. We actually do this as one of our fundamental data verification methodologies. So that's one thing I just thought I'll kind of bring it up. Like, what do you think of that? I'll jump to the second idea, but I thought I'll put this idea out.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I was actually pretty curious about how blockchain would help here. I think in a world where, say, the distribution is linked to that, like to that sort of a blockchain, then I think this makes a lot of sense. Where you are controlling the distribution, so there you can basically say that the consumer can sort of verify this. One thing without it that we face in videos is someone can just sort of download the video and decode it, re-encode it, and then upload it somewhere else. But in a world where I think it's on the same platform, it just like the perfect use case.
Yeah, no, in fact, like the example you said that somebody could download it and do something and upload it. Well, this is the same problem that NFTs have. So if you're familiar with NFTs, right, it's a huge issue in the market right now. Is, let's say I'm an NFT artist, a very famous NFT artist, and I put up an NFT and it's worth $1 million. Well, if somebody is going to buy that, how do they verify that that was from me, right? And that's the power of the blockchain. It can do that on chain. But also, I think a lot of sort of new businesses are going into blockchain-backed blue ticks, right? Like a Twitter blue tick. Like for somebody viewing that video, if they see the blue tick, and the blue tick is powered by blockchain because you don't need an intermediary, you can verify it. That's just almost giving them the comfort to know that, okay, I can see this and this is not tampered with. Exactly what's happening in NFTs. So if I'm going to buy an NFT, how do I know it's somebody's not downloaded it and just created a dummy account that looks like the artist and then publishing it? And that's because you can verify. So I think you can even do this off chain. So this kind of stuff, you don't have to be on the blockchain. You can just write a normal app, but it's talking to the blockchain in the back. And it's free, because if you're talking to the blockchain, it's free. You don't have to spend any money. You're just verifying it. So that's, I think, a super interesting use case. There's one more I thought I picked up. I don't know how practical this is, but before I go into it, is there some way that the celebrity can ask you to unlearn from your model?
Generally, that would just, for us, that would mean deleting their neural network models.
Okay, cool. Because I was thinking that could be even a mechanism where the celebrity is using blockchain to, when they participate, their portion of the learning model is actually encrypted using the key pair that they own on their wallet. And at any given time, so they can give it to you, so they're giving you access to it. So at any given time, they can like say, okay, I want out, and they sever the access. And then if there's somewhere you can like automatically unlearn that. Now we're saying, okay, as a celebrity, don't worry, you have full control of your participation and your distribution. So I don't know how practical that is in reality.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Yeah, that's definitely something very interesting to explore.
Yeah, but we'll definitely have more chats about this, I think, offline. But I want to take the discussion into areas that are very interesting to us. Not sure if it's interesting to rephrase is the metaverse. And I'll tell you why it's interesting to us. For us, it's the bridge between real world and virtual world. And to us, we are already in the metaverse. The fact that I'm talking to you, you're in a different part of the world, we're having the discussion virtually. We're already in the metaverse, right? Where do you see the future? Like, I'm not talking about rephrase or the synthetic generative videos, but in your view, as a tech entrepreneur, where do you see we're heading in the metaverse side of things?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I worked on Facebook Spaces, which was like sort of first social media and virtual reality from like Facebook's perspective. And I think we were super excited at the time about how the possibilities of that sort of a virtual world in the future we were seeing there. I think metaverse comes with its own benefits and limitations. I think like everything else, where I see it going is I think the popular movie in Ready Player One. Like what they do is they would generally basically like live in that virtual reality world. I think that is one extreme of it. I don't see it going there perhaps, but I think a lot of these things which sort of this sort of virtual world enables is I think it like solves the problem of presence in a lot of ways. Like the way we used to think about this in that world basically is, say currently we are talking and I can see your video, I can hear you, but there are other senses that need to be involved for me to like sort of feel your presence even more. So I think there generally what we like intend to do, I think is basically if you have like more haptic feedback and those feedbacks, then I think it sort of creates that real sense of presence, which I think is very interesting to me. And I think the other point is that metaverse sort of is a world where you don't have the physical limitations. It just opens up a bunch of things like if I don't have to follow the rules of physics or gravity, there are a lot of like really cool experiences that you can have in that. I think from that perspective, metaverse like just sort of takes the world, brings the world even closer from that perspective.
Yeah, I really like what you just said. Yeah, that's a very good way to look at it. I mean, Ready Player One is the more extreme example, right? Where it is a centrally controlled metaverse, which is a very scary concept. Where if you do anything, you're booted out of the metaverse. That is to me very scary. That to ITHEUM is terrifyingly scary. So one thing we're trying to do is we kind of see that could happen. And at least what we are trying to do is create the tools that if we were to end up in that reality, there is still a way for you to own your data. So one good thing about the metaverse is that most of it would be, we envision the assets within the metaverse would be backed by NFT technology. Only because they are non-fungible, right? The assets that you have and assets that I have are not the same. So the only way you can tokenize it is as an NFT. So we are really thinking about how could we at least build some tools that let you take data, wrap it as an NFT, and then eventually when we end up, hopefully we don't, but we end up in a centralized metaverse, at least a lot of the data assets in that is owned by you. So we're trying to do this sort of bottom-up adoption. They're trying to get the people first, and then if they enter these metaverses, at least they own their data. Yeah, I really like your second point as well about no limitations in the net. That's from a creative point of view, like that's amazing because you can create these experiences that you could never have in the physical sense. I think that's really great. And I also think that what you guys are doing at Rephrase is I don't know if you guys know this, but I think you're actually building infrastructure for the metaverse, because you're creating this ability to take real emotions into virtual world. So I think that's really interesting what you guys are doing. I don't have any more questions. Shivam, do you have anything for us? Do you want to know anything about ITHEUM or any sort of overlap you see?
No, I think the overlap, I think that you mentioned those 2 points. They were especially, I think, where you could like have a way to verify if the video has been created like by the right source, uh, where I think you have to basically sort of integrate with the distribution networks, with the apps that have more distribution. I think that is a very interesting thing that we would explore more offline perhaps. On the metaverse side, on how Rephrase fits in there, I think there are like a lot of interesting ways. We basically see it as like virtual anchor, completely hosting the event, and even like one part I think is basically where you translate emotions from real world to the virtual world, and another part where we are focused on currently is sort of creating this synthetic personality which is not doing anything, where you would basically copy from, but it's generating its own emotions, generating its own scripts, and then sort of expressing it in that virtual world. So virtual anchors, virtual customer care reps, and whatnot. A very interesting world out there, and I think metaverse seems like a very interesting, I think, future direction just generally, where I think we would, uh, as a society, I think would invest a lot of energy going into it in at least the next decade.
So this was a very interesting conversation. I learned so many new things and got so many creative ideas from Shivam. These were really great. The one where you say if there was no limitation, no gravity to be, taken in consideration, there are so many possibilities that can be, brought into reality. And when we talk about metaverse, we are looking at a different kind of reality altogether. So, when we move towards that with this kind of speed that we are in, with blockchain technologies taking the, first hand and taking the trend in place, I think there is a lot more possibility of us doing great things. And I would love to take any questions from you if you have, or you guys can give me a closing statement.
Thanks. So Shivam, again, thank you for your time. We know it's very valuable, but we love to have these discussions, more so to understand how we can kind of bridge real world use cases. It's fascinating stuff that you're doing at Rephrase. How could we bridge it into Web3? How could we bridge the tech into the metaverse? How could we build ownership? So these kind of things we love to explore in this forum, because then it's almost like we're trying to create this unified world where it's fun to use, but it still protects people's data. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot for having me. I think it was a very, very interesting conversation where I have thought a little bit about how Rephrase videos and all of this sort of fit into blockchain and a metaverse world. But I think this opens up my mind to like a lot more new opportunities and different directions. I think one thing we've been thinking is like how these synthetically generated videos can also be used as NFTs in different domains. So I think this is a very interesting direction that we are headed as a society, as a world. Super excited, I think, to talk to you maybe and discuss this further.
Absolutely. I think we need to have a bunch of more discussions. I can see a lot of ideas just flowing out of us both. So really looking forward to the follow-up discussions as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. This was really great.
Thank you, everyone.